A federal judge in Florida has stepped in to block parts of Governor Ron DeSantis's Stop Woke Act, one of his signature bills. Now, the judge issued a temporary injunction on the law. This is Judge Mark Walker, who said parts of the act stopping the instruction of racism and sexism in college courses violate the First Amendment right to free speech and the 14th Amendment right to due process on campus. Signed into law in April, the legislation called the Individual Freedom Act and the Stop Woke Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act prohibits educational institutions and businesses from teaching students and employees anything that, in their words, would cause anyone to feel guilt, anguish, or any form of psychological distress due to their race, color, sex, or national origin. Now, I like to call this bill the Snowflake Bill because of what it is. I mean, there's a couple of reasons for that. First, it seems like, it's extremely white, made for super white people. And again, mainly people who are older white conservatives, preventing them from catching any feelings for being, on the wrong side of civil rights. Look, if there's a civil rights issue, odds are you're going to find a conservative that's on the wrong side. Like gay rights, for example, right for women to vote, right for black people to vote, the Civil Rights Act of 1965. I mean, you name it, there's conservatives. They were all on the wrong side against rights. The only rights that they seem to care about are supposedly free speech, which they get wrong all the time because guess what? There's no free speech on private platforms. Saying that, being able to scream the N-word on Twitter repeatedly, which again, as soon as Elon Musk took over, that's exactly what happened. Accounts were created to just, again, post the N-word over and over and over again. That's not a protected right in the Constitution. You can get banned from these platforms for doing that because they're not government agencies. Basically, to protect you from the government coming in and telling you what you can, or I should say the government coming in and punishing you for you using your speech against the government. So that said, what's interesting here is Ron DeSantis in this Stop Woke Act is actually trying to muzzle professors and stop them from using their free speech. So now, getting back to the only things that apparently a lot of these conservatives seem to care about, unlimited gun rights, for example. I believe in the Second Amendment. Second Amendment means I can shop at Walmart with an AR-15 on my back. Okay, great. Wonderful. Now, the law also specifically outlaws teachings that may promote guilt or invoke a sense of privilege for actions committed in the past by other members of a group. And I guess they're talking about, slavery is big, kind of a big, right? They're saying, hey, let's say, look, that whole slavery thing, that was unfortunate, but it was in the past. Let's forget about it. Let's not even talk about it anymore. Let's not talk about any of those issues. Okay, let's forget about it. It's water under the bridge. Jim Crow, why are we still talking about this? I mean, seriously, why are we teaching about that? Why are we teaching about sexism? Come on. Now, hold on here. If there's, for one, there's no indications at all, no evidence that anyone who has ever taught students about this stuff has pointed out white students to make them feel bad about slavery. Okay? Or Jim Crow. What we're teaching about is history. What are you so afraid of? Are you afraid of history? I thought you were the side of, we can't take down these Confederate monuments because, history. You can't erase history. We can't take them down and put them in a museum. They've got to be right in the middle of a park or something. It's got to be the name of our school, the Robert E. Lee School. Come on. What are you scared of? The bill also says no one should be instructed to feel as if they're not equal or shamed because of their race. And again, they're mainly talking about white people. Now, Ron DeSantis, Florida's governor, said in April after signing this bill, in Florida, we will not let the far left woke agenda take over our schools and workplaces. There's no place for indoctrination or discrimination in Florida. But wait, that's exactly what they're doing. By ignoring the past and how that still affects things going on today, because it does have an effect. For example, the wealth gap between Black Americans and white Americans, policing, and how there's been a huge history of racist policing in this country, the makeups of certain neighborhoods, again, a result of redlining policies, school funding, another example, inner city schools not being funded as well as wealthier schools. That is discrimination. It is. But you want to ignore these things because, you don't want to actually right these wrongs. You don't want to make it so that these are not repeated in the future. Now, the judge responded in his injunction pretty aggressively, and this is what I like. He said, he actually made a reference to Orwell's 1984, saying, "It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13, and the powers in charge of Florida's public university system have declared the state has unfettered authority to muzzle its professors in the name of freedom. Defendants argue under this act, professors enjoy academic freedom so long as they express only those viewpoints of which the state approves. This is positively dystopian." And this judge is 100% right. This is censorship. It is ignoring history. It is indoctrination on the part of Ron DeSantis. And he knows it. Look, everything that they say that the left wing is trying to do is actually what they're trying to do. Every accusation is an admission. Now, the judge's ruling does stop the law's implementation in colleges and universities in the state, but the rest of the law will still go into effect. Except for the businesses. Walker in August blocked the law from affecting businesses as well as, that there are also other challenges that are in progress when it comes to the law's impact on K through 12. So now colleges and universities, it is blocked from affecting those as well as business. So pretty much they have only the K through 12 schools left. Now, Walker, who was appointed by Barack Obama, which, by the way, I think is a fantastic pick, also issued a ruling in January against a conflict of interest policy that barred University of Florida faculty from participating in lawsuits against the state, including testifying against state law. So you can see how Ron DeSantis is trying to basically create Florida, or I should say make Florida into an authoritarian state. Walker wrote, "Our professors are critical to a healthy democracy, and the state of Florida's decision to choose which viewpoints are worthy of illumination and which must remain in the shadows has implications for us all. If our priests of democracy are not allowed to shed light on challenging ideas, then democracy will die in darkness." 100%. And look, that's the point. The point is to kill our democracy. How do you kill a democracy? Well, you do that by limiting access to information that would run contrary, in this case, to the state, to Republican ideology. Notice, again, all these charges of it's the left wing, they're indoctrinating kids. No actual examples of how, first indoctrination, and no real examples of how conservative thought is restricted by the state itself. Now, look, you can maybe make an argument and point out, well, conservative speakers are not allowed to speak on college campuses. Actually, in a lot of cases, they are. And the times where it's shut down, it's usually because of protest, not organized by the school itself. Now, I disagree. Yes, sure, I think you should be allowed to protest if you don't like the speakers. But I still think that they should be allowed to speak. Because I think the best way to challenge them is to challenge their ideas and to make their ideas, well, sound as stupid as they are, basically. That said, they're not stifling conservative speech. What it looks like they're doing is trying to stifle speech that is not conservative. And you know what's funny too? In colleges, I wonder how many econ professors are conservative. I know personally, I had one. I know it's an anecdote, and the one that I had just used to, use up class time to bitch about Obama. Seriously, while praising Ronald Reagan. Does that guy, did that guy seem restricted at all? Didn't seem like to me. Didn't seem like he was restricted at all. He wasn't fired. Still worked there. He wasn't told to shut up. Wasn't told to stop indoctrinating students into right-wing ideology. Look, it's all projection, okay? They're telling us what they want to do, and then people like Ron DeSantis, when they're in positions of power, actually do it. Now, DeSantis, of course, is going to appeal the decision, and depending on where it ends up, considering how Donald Trump, of course, was able to change the makeup of the judiciary by appointing hand-picked judges from the Federalist Society, he could still win the day, and this could go back into super dystopian times. And another thing about those judges from Trump is that they're young, under 50, which means they're going to serve for life. Terrible decision letting them be able to, appoint, get into power and appoint all these justices. So, as I said, decisions like these are going to have major impacts on the kinds of decisions, across the country. And we have that to look forward to. Wonderful. That said, it's a good ruling. I applaud this ruling, and I hope it sticks. But as with, everything, depending on where it goes in the courts and the ideological makeup of the courts, well, I don't know. I fear for the future.